JWT.io is a great resource that allows you to play around with some of these concepts of JSON Web Tokens. We're going to look at how the JWT is structured and some of what is going on under the hood. But again, most of this is going to be implemented for us using some libraries, and we could take a look at some of the libraries that are recommended by this website. JWTs are kind of a beast of a concept, but essentially what we're doing, we're self-signing a data payload so that we can access it and trust it when we retrieve it a second time. We'll provide resources in the text below that give additional information into how this system is actually working. But for now, all you need to understand is our payload can be modified by our server to include additional information, and this is self-signed within this payload. We know that this is the information that the server intended because the server can decrypt and verify that this has not been modified and that this data is authentic. Again, complicated, hand-waving over a lot of this stuff, but for now what you need to understand is that this string corresponds to a verified piece of data that we're calling a payload. Once that server retrieves that payload, we can decrypt it and trust that that data is valid. Instead of having to hit the database on every single new request, we can simply use that information within the payload to make decisions whether or not that user is authorized to get sensitive data. Servers are a slightly different animal, and often they are issued things like tokens, which act as a sort of password to access a server. That server will include this token as part of an authorization header as well during most requests. When the requesting server makes the requested server will use that token to authenticate the request and authorize that request within that system. Our servers are also making use of a similar pattern. We are storing tokens in secrets within our server for things like accessing our database or other services. Here we see the same system of asking for authentication and providing credentials to access that system. We've covered this briefly before, but we need to keep in mind that all secrets should be secret. In our previous exercise, we stored our credentials as plain text within a configuration file. This is bad. And I wanted to do that to exemplify the point that it's easy, but there are other ways to do it. And if this is new to you, this is a good way of seeing that. Instead, we can use something called an environment variable. This will allow us to store specific credentials locally on a computer or on a server, and then only access that information when that code is running from that environment. We'll explore how to use environment variables within our next coding exercise.